Hey, it looks like we're live. I'm Chris Cornell, a health coach in the Ovadia Heart Health practice. And today I have the privilege and honor of speaking with Brian Keith, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Ovadia Heart Health. And today we're going to get into the topic of healthy habits for high performance entrepreneurs, something that Brian knows a great deal about through his work with a lot of really high level high performance entrepreneurs, and he is also one of those himself. So, Brian, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself and your story and your expertise in this subject matter?
Howdy, folks. I'm not part of the medical team at Ovadia Heart Health, so I'm going to be talking from a business perspective, not the medical perspective. You get those people with the accurate knowledge and the letters after their names on a regular basis on here. I look more at how do I help myself and my clients, including Dr. Vadia, go and maximize their ability to have energy to go and get done whatever it is that they need to get done. So, for my background, I started my company 12 years ago, Redbeard Consulting, and what I'm doing now is fractional COO work. So I work with a variety of people, including Dr. Vadia, and a variety of teams. Dr. Vadia's team, we have about, Chris, 20-ish people across full-time employees, part-time employees, contractors, about 20-ish people. Some teams I work with have more like 15 or 30. And there's always the question of how do you help people perform at a high level while taking care of their own health? And sometimes, some seasons, I'm really good at that. Yesterday, I'm going to highlight yesterday because yesterday was actually a big win. Often, I don't prioritize eating well because I'm too busy at work. And I have a 1-year-old son. And so my day consists of working and taking care of my son. And from cleaning bottles to when he goes to sleep at night, my wife feeds him his bottle. And then I get him to sleep. I put him to sleep. When he wakes up, if we're still up, I go get him back to sleep. If during the night he wakes up, I go get him back to sleep. This morning, when he wetted through his onesie at 4:45, I went and got him, changed him, brought him back to bed. He didn't go back to sleep. Oh, well. But between the night parent every night and work, I don't take time to really cook much. Now, not that I don't know how to. Think my wife makes great food. But yesterday, I actually had a successful day where for breakfast, I cooked up, it was a pound of elk, of ground elk, a pound of ground beef with some organ meat in it, 4 small potatoes, and 6 eggs. Cooked all that up, and that was enough for 2 breakfasts. Now, yesterday, work was crazy, didn't get to eat anymore, so I ended up actually eating more of that for lunch and also for dinner. Because yesterday it wasn't a one meal a day, but it was a single meal 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And then I had the last of that for breakfast this morning. And wouldn't you know, I weighed myself this morning. I'm the lowest I've weighed in years as I've been trying to go work on losing random body fat that shouldn't be there and getting to be just more fit. Well, often, like many entrepreneurs and many business people, I'm running between this and that. If whoever has small kids or remembers when they had small kids, you're always running from this to that to other thing. Prioritizing taking time to even drink a glass of water, much less making a meal, is hard, and often it's impossible. So yesterday was a win. And it was a win because I had a protein focused meal, which I then had enough that it was very easy to go eat more later. And then I had enough carbs that I wasn't, let's say, craving carbs too much because I had a little bit, like 4 small potatoes is not a lot of carbs. You would know, Chris. How many carbs is that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't
You know
potatoes.
everything like this.
Um,
It's
4
not a
small
lot.
potatoes would not give me any problem for it for as part of my daily
Yeah.
regimen. But
What do you get? Your 90 grams a day is your max carbs?
max, yeah. So I'm usually probably in the 70 grams per day on
Right.
average.
So yesterday, I probably ate less than that, but that was an unusual day. Often I have far more junk food in my diet. And by junk food, I mean things that are not meat or eggs. So that was yesterday. But the big question is, how do you eat to perform at a high level? I go to conventions sometimes, and it's fascinating because these conventions for the software that I work with are at these hotels, and they have these big hotel ballroom kind of things, right? And they have the buffet for breakfast. And how much of the buffet, the breakfast buffet, is food and how much is not food? It's like 10% food. There's usually some overcooked sausages or bacon. And then there's some eggs, which are usually fake. If you go for the hard-boiled ones, they're real. The other eggs are usually a mixture of some kind, where there's like a liquid they bought. And so I go to the conventions and I see all my my fellow software people, and they all have these plates full of junk food where they have muffins and they have some oatmeal and they have some bread with some jam. And I think that looks delicious, but it would knock me out. And I know this. And they look at my plate and they see hard-boiled eggs, if possible, and they see a pile of the bacon or sausage, whatever it is that day. That's one plate. And then I go back for dessert, which is the fresh fruit. And that's my extravagance. And I do that, I eat like that because when it's important, especially if I'm speaking at a convention, the cost of not being on top of my game is high. And so those days, before I speak, I minimize that carb intake down to nearly nothing. Now, I also like to have fun, so I might go out and have dessert with dinner. I was out with Dr. Ovadia at a convention, maybe it was last year, 2 years ago, and had some creme brulee after we had steak at we had to Fogo de Chao, I think. So I'm not a keto, I don't eat the keto level, but I carefully time when I have any significant amount of carbs, understanding that, yes, I will, some version of mentally be slowed down versus not feel aggressively and on edge, which for a lot of business people, you got to go figure out when you're going to be aggressive and on edge. And like today, I have on Dr. Ovadia's schedule, I think I have 6 calls with Dr. Ovadia today on doing work for him. This is the first one, but I have 5 more this afternoon. Every one of those matters. I'm the COO of the company. My decisions matter. I have to have good judgment. I screen a lot of things for Dr. Ovadia. So my ability to say, this is important, that's not important, we're going to go in this direction, I can't let that slide. So breakfast this morning was the remainder of that elk and ground beef and egg and a little bit of potato breakfast. But that was only like maybe a handful of food. And then I had a protein hot chocolate. So that's a protein powder. It's a chocolate protein powder. It probably has a little bit of stevia in it, but a negligible amount. And I went out with the wife, went for a drive, and got to have a big old mug of protein hot chocolate. So I probably had around 30 or 40 grams total of protein today. I've had probably around 5 or 10 grams of carbs maybe. So I've not eaten very much. But critically, yesterday I didn't eat a lot of carbs. So the chances that I'll be craving carbs and stuff my face with junk between all these important calls today is pretty low. Because yesterday I laid the foundation for today because I knew I'm in calls all day long. I'm in calls from 8:30 until 5 p.m. today. And I have to stay sharp the entire day. I cannot slow down the whole day.
So Brian, what do you notice when you eat more carbs than is your desirable number? What are the biggest factors that affect you and your performance?
Comfortable. It's bad to be comfortable in my profession. I'm the guy who wears shorts and flip-flops out when it's freezing cold out. We went out for the drive today. It's 32 degrees out here. I live near Seattle, Washington, and I'm in flip-flops. Being comfortable is bad if you're trying to be aggressively on point, like on the edge, right? Being comfortable is great some of the time. And I want my son to be comfortable all the time because he's 1. But for adults and for adults that are out there trying to make it happen in some kind of entrepreneurial fashion, because they're trying to do something new here. If you are comfortable, your chances of trying to do something new are low. You want to be uncomfortable. And to be uncomfortable, part of that is avoid the things that make you comfortable. Trader Joe's has these not very good for you at all, little peanut butter cups. There's dark chocolate, there's milk chocolate, right? I used to have way more of those. Then I almost entirely cut seed oils out of my diet, which is part of why I never sunburn anymore, by the way. Even a full day on the water in the summer, I get a slight little bit of pink, but I just don't sunburn anymore. Different conversation. I could eat that entire container in about 5 minutes. And how I would feel afterwards is I would, of course, feel guilty and like I was hurting myself because I am. But I would also feel like, man, you know what's really amazing? Netflix. It's 9:09 a.m. where I am. That's fine. Netflix. That's a great idea. My couch is comfortable. I want to scratch my dog. I want to look out at the view. Maybe hold my son and just relax, man.
Well, I mean, I guess comfortable, I get what you're saying about the comfort. I will tell you that when I go too high on the carbs, it's worse than that. I mean, yes, I do want to sit on the couch. It's bad for me, but I also feel way off. And I don't know how you feel, but yeah, my performance.
It's even the next day. It's not just feeling that like that in the moment, but it's the next day. Some days when I notice that I'm slow. So there's 2 things that are bad: carbs and heat. I'm the person who If it gets above 75 degrees, my brain starts to slow down. I'll occasionally be in the office, I'll be working, I'll think, what did I get done in the last hour? What's going on here? And I'll look and it's like, oh, it's 78 degrees in here. Oh, of course, that's why I'm too hot. That I need to go, and I live in a cold climate in general, so it's pretty good for me. I got to go keep the temperature pretty low. Even right now, I have a little space heater going in my office because it's at 32 degrees outside. And I'm like, I should probably turn that off because I'm too comfortable. I'm not cold. I'm not angry about how cold I am. So
I know from getting the opportunity to work with you that you are extremely skilled at looking at scenarios and situations and optimizing, helping people, take what is already right in front of them and, tweak something, turn it a different way, take advantage of things that are right there in front of them. What kind of suggestions do you have for a high performance entrepreneur who, wants to make some of these lifestyle changes, particularly with related to food, but other areas as well, sleep, stress? What are some of the lowest hanging fruit that they can do, or that you would recommend for them to do?
It's the mindset shift about what your environment really is. Most of us would not go on Zoom and have a background that looked like complete crap, like a messy bedroom. I once interviewed a guy, this poor guy, interviewing for a sales job, and he didn't have he was just in a bedroom, and behind him is his bed and clothes everywhere. And he didn't have the background blur on. They then turned it on, which didn't make it better because through the blur you could see it wasn't a virtual background. It was it blurring your background. Like, why in the world would I trust this guy? If this is how he shows up to a job interview, I would never trust this guy. That's obvious. We all agree on that. But there's some things that only you can see that are part of your environment. And that environmental design is how you can optimize your performance. All the way from things like how often are you scraping your tongue along with flossing and brushing, and what kind of toothpaste are you using, to how many carbs did you eat yesterday, to even things like unresolved trauma. That your unresolved trauma in your life is a part of how you show up to work. And it's at least as important as what kind of food you eat. Give me somebody who has done the work and looked at their life and eats oatmeal for breakfast every day. Give me that person all day long over a person who only eats steak but has gone through traumatic experiences that they've not looked at all. I decided today, I told my wife, so I'm on this drive this morning, I said, I'm going to talk about my daughter today. This story is horrible, by the way, folks, just a fair warning. My daughter died 2 years ago from stillbirth at 33 weeks of gestation. And she probably found out later had Down syndrome. She definitely had Down syndrome, but she probably died of that. Turns out that Down syndrome kills most kids that have it before they're born, and then kills a lot more kids that have it before they're 1 year of age. And there's a handful that survive, and we see them walking around. So we think, oh, Down syndrome, it just makes your face look weird and you don't speak quite right. No, it kills most kids that have it, including my daughter. That's a horrible thing, and it's shared by a lot of people. When I started talking about that after my daughter died, turns out a lot of people I know have kids that have died from miscarriage, stillbirth, infant loss. It's everywhere, but we don't talk about it because it's one of the worst topics in the world. So we don't talk about it. And so people are expected to just sort of deal with it. Oh, you had a miscarriage. Oh, that's so sorry. So about the meeting on Tuesday, that's how we approach each other. And it's how we approach ourselves. But this is a problem because if you don't look back at your loss, which my loss happens to be my daughter died, but everyone listening here has some kind of horrible loss in your background, whether it's a child dying, maybe a spouse dying, a parent dying, maybe it's a horrible disease that incapacitated you or someone you love. Maybe you witnessed something you shouldn't have witnessed as a child. All of us have trauma in our past of some kinds. Are you resolving it? If you aren't resolving it, you might have to be negotiating your nervous system using whatever tools you have available at the time. One of those is alcohol. When my daughter died, I looked up, because I like to research things. I try to control situations by researching them. Well, what are the 3 big bad outcomes that happens when a kid dies? Divorce, suicide, and alcoholism. I didn't drink for over a year. I wasn't drinking a lot before then. But I thought, okay, of these 3 things, the one I can control is not becoming an alcoholic. So I'm not going to have a single drink. And I didn't for about a year and a half because I thought, I know what the statistics say. I'm not even going to go that direction, though I can see why you would. And I don't morally judge anybody who says alcohol is the way to deal with the fact that my kid's dead. Right on. I get you. Not the best decision. Long term, it's going to be bad for you, but I understand in the moment. But looking towards the present, if you've not addressed any of that stuff in your past through the many different ways you can work through things like a child dying, you're going to find out that you have a behavior in the present tense that makes no sense. You're going to look at, why is it that I'm eating a bag of chips every night? Or why am I having 3 drinks with lunch every day? Or why am I constantly eating too much chocolate? There's all these different things that you might be looking at as you're looking at a tense situation. And if you don't know, because you've not looked at what's happened in the rest of your life up till today, you might judge yourself unfairly. You might say, oh, I'm eating chips because I'm a loser. I'm eating all this alcohol, all this chocolate because I'm just a bad human being. I don't care about my family. I'm just worthless. Maybe not. Maybe you have unresolved trauma, and maybe that is part of why you're, in addition to the food's addictive, in addition to your environment is designed in other ways, your spiritual life and how you've negotiated with your life over your entire life up till now. Maybe that's an important part in deciding how you can be most productive next week.
Yeah, Brian, well, your story is, really compelling and tragic, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. The what you bring up with respect to alcohol, it's something that, just as someone that's involved in this community of metabolic health, obesity, type 2 diabetes, there's a lot of transferability of one addiction for another.
It's a dirty word.
It's
Transferability.
Well, it's like you see somebody, they finally give up the smoking and then they start eating too much. They finally stop drinking and they start eating too much. So it's becomes kind of obvious that the alcohol or the food or the cigarettes or the drugs are not really the root problem. They're the thing that's trying to cover up the root problem. And I would imagine that you probably find a lot of high performance entrepreneurs who are very successful in one area of their life, and they have a root problem that they're not addressing.
A friend of mine said, chips on shoulders put chips in pockets. As in, the more you have to prove because you feel you've been wronged in some way, almost all high performing entrepreneurs are like that. Why is it that Elon Musk bought Twitter? Do you know the singular reason?
Oh, tell me. I'm sure you know more than me.
He lost his son to transgenderism.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with that story.
His son decided he was going to be a woman and never talk to his dad again. And Elon, being the obsessive guy he is, looked at that and said, what is the root cause? He's always looking at root causes. What is the root cause of why I lost my son? And Elon said, my son is dead. That's a direct quote.
Yep.
And then he looked at this and said, and he decided it's the quote, woke mind virus, unquote. And he decided, how can I kill the woke mind virus? I'm going to buy Twitter. And so he decided now he's doing the whole going to Mars thing. Twitter's going to help with that. I'm sure every other company he's active in is all a Mars company, obviously and clearly. Twitter's not. He bought Twitter to avenge his son. He's pissed. Now, regardless of what you think about that exact particular topic, what is it in your life that makes you aggressive or want to go win more? How do you find that, and how do you hone that without letting it own you? My parents are both entrepreneurs. So I grew up 2-entrepreneur household, discussing finances at a dinner table all the time, and also all the ups and downs of a 2-entrepreneur household. There was no steady income. That's a joke. There was things like, oh, a recession just showed up. Oh, my dad can't build any more houses right now. Oh, my mom doesn't have any clients showing up. When we were little kids, maybe 8 years old, we said to our parents, because it was one of these times where there was no business to be had, we said, we're willing to go and stop getting our allowance. And it was, $20 a month or who knows what. And my parents said, my mom's told the story when she says, yeah, we realized that, well, of course, that $20 was going to make no difference to the mortgages or groceries or anything else. It was all we had. We're going to go 100% all in to go support the family. Now, what did that do to me to not have a steady income? I've never known that growing up. And the growing up years are really formative, right? So if you had a parent who was alcoholic, or you had a parent that was absent for some reason, if you had divorce in your lifetime, all that stuff shapes you in ways that makes you where you stand is quite different than someone else who did not experience that. My wife, her parents got divorced when she was 2. That changes her life quite a bit. But also her mother's Air Force and has always had a steady work. So she's always had steady income, but then not had the stable parent life for her entire childhood. I always had the stable parent life. We've never had a steady income. So how I view money is quite different from normal. I got to college and we're all discussing how we're paying for college one day, which is a freshman year. And I asked one of my friends on my floor, oh, how much debt have you gone into for this? How much are you paying for college? And she lit into me. She was furious with me for daring to ask her how much money she was going to debt for college. And I thought, like, what's going on? Like, Steph, we're just having a conversation. As we talked further, she said, I asked my dad how much money he made once. And based on the response, I never asked him again. And that's when I first realized I'm really weird. I grew up with financial statements, conversations being normal at the dinner table. And I vaguely recall the first time the parents asked us kids a question about, should we do this, should we do that? And I made an argument, I was maybe 12, and they listened to my argument and changed their minds about some course of some small piece of the business. And that was a big deal for me. Meanwhile, other kids never encountered a financial conversation ever. And if they asked their dad yelled at them for even daring to ask how much money their dad made. Completely different worlds. And so let's bring this back to your environment that you're designing here, is that how you grew up. I grew up on cereal, by the way. We almost never had eggs. We went to Denny's with my grandpa when he was in town. We got the Grand Slam. Man, we got sausage and bacon and eggs. I never ate like that growing up. It was always not just cereal, but the cheap store brand cereal and skim milk. We never had eggs. That wasn't a thing. And that's how I grew up my entire life. And so then now here I am, and the breakfast that's described to you is elk, ground beef with organ meat, eggs, and a little bit of potatoes. My son eats bison almost every day because that's what's really good for his system. So how do you go look at how you grew up and what normal looks like, and then go look at what is actual optimal for you now, regardless of where you came from? What is actually healthy for you in your current context with your current body? In my case, I told you, hit the lowest weight on the scale since I've been tracking things years ago. Pretty darn excited about that. So for me, I'm not weightlifting, of course, nearly enough right now, but I'm not trying to train for a marathon, let's say. So I'm not trying to go eat more than I need to go add on lots of muscles to get ready for a serious sporting event. No, I need to go stay focused all day today for 8.5 hours of phone calls with almost no breaks. And I need to be as sharp on the last call as I am at the first call. That's a really different context for what I need to do today than if I was training for a marathon in 3 weeks.
We've touched on a bunch of really interesting and compelling topics. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts for someone listening to this who tuned in, looking for some advice or some tips on how to. I'm just amazed when I see somebody that's like, 70 pounds overweight or more, but who is running a company, who's doing a great job of one aspect of their life, and they, the basic mindset of a lot of people viewing that person is he's lazy or she's lazy, and not taking advantage of ways to improve their health. But I think a lot of times these people don't actually know what path to get on. Do you have any advice?
I don't think it's that. I think it's that they are focused, and it is appropriate to focus for a little while. My wife, who's also a health coach, she likes to say that you can focus, you can be out of balance for a while, but you can't be out of balance forever. But also you need to be out of balance to achieve anything. Elon is extremely out of balance to an extreme level, right? But he also has achieved things that no other human has ever done or ever could do. If you are someone who is significantly overweight and you're killing it at running a company, but your physical body is totally torn up, you're making a choice to be out of balance for too long.
Yeah.
I've not been to the gym in about 2 months or so. We discovered, yay for another horrible story, some mold in our house. And for the last about 7 weeks, I've been hot after this mold remediation project, which has included hiring folks, but also me doing significant amounts of work myself, where it's been if I go to the gym and I hurt myself at the gym and I can't go do the next thing in the mold remediation, like this weekend, I will be tearing out some drywall on the ceiling of the bathroom, replacing that, maybe getting to tiling the floor. I cannot be injured. And I don't work a physical job. I'm not going to hurt myself at work just from sitting or standing too much, but I can hurt myself at the gym. So I'm not going to the gym and I'm not putting energy in. It's either remodel or business or take care of the kid. That's it right now in my life, which is fine for a season. I'm looking at by January, getting back to the gym and saying, okay, I've now spent a lot of time ignoring my body. I occasionally don't eat bad. That's my current, that's the health message from the COO I Fix Hearts. I currently don't eat bad sometimes, but come January, it's gonna be okay. I've now put in all this time to this project. It's reached a sufficient level of completion. And now I have to get back to at least 3 days a week, go to the gym, both lift the weights, go to the steam room, just go do all the things to go take care of my physical body. So I don't think it's I don't know what to do. It's you're focused, which is not bad. It's also who are you around. I used to do medieval reenactment, as you know that story. So folks, imagine MMA, but in armor with wooden swords. I did that for a decade. And we had all these different little groups that did we all went to these events together. Okay. My little group was very health conscious. And we would laugh at the other groups because a lot of them drank beer and ate pizza. We would occasionally poison them intentionally by bringing them donuts the morning of a fight. We'd say, oh, hey, we brought you some donuts. We're all off eating meat and eggs. We bring our enemies donuts. Hilarious. And shockingly, they gas out around noon or 2, and my team is still ready to go because we didn't eat any carbs. We also didn't drink last night because we're health nuts. There's a point to that story, I'm sure. Right. It was about who you surround yourself with. And so some of the groups, all the guys are drinking heavily and they're also smoking. And our group, some of us drink sometimes. And the day after the big event is done, that night, maybe we drink. But the night before, maybe we have one drink. I'm not drinking a lot. It's for losers. But the people around me all felt like that, including the top dog, the best sword fighter in our group. He ate like that. He never drank at all. He never smoked. And so it's easy when you're in a place where you have a local hierarchy where you look at whoever's in charge and they live a certain way. Dr. Ovadia, he's in heart surgery most of the day, most days. All of our team meetings are at night. Now, thankfully, I'm West Coast. He's East Coast. I have hard time with some of our team meetings, even though they're later in the day my time. But for people on the East Coast, they're really late because Ovadia is literally doing heart surgery all day. And then I don't know if he takes a break for 5 minutes. I don't know what. Then he hops on calls for the next 4 to 6 hours some days. He has an insane level of energy. And so for anyone on the team, if you think, oh man, I'm tired, I don't have enough energy, look at this guy. You think this guy was literally doing heart surgery all day, people's lives in his hands, and you're going to complain about being on a Zoom call? You can't do that. It makes no sense. And so everyone knows, like, okay, that's what the top dog is. We got to go be, and it makes it easy because we have all these people in our community, like our other health coaches, Chris, you, and also Jen and Krishna, all people that are, you look at them, you're like, that person looks pretty strong and healthy, way more like they're top 1 or 2% in terms of health of Americans. And so it's easy to look at them and say, whoa, okay, I should be more like them. So for the people you talked about, the business owners who are finding themselves overweight, out of shape, weak, you should say, okay, well, who are you hanging on? Who's your peer group? If your peer group are also not taking care of themselves, even if you have all the information in the world and all the time in the world, the chances that you're going to change your behavior are pretty low. It's not impossible, but it's pretty low. But if you had your friends were all really healthy, the chances that your behavior would naturally change is pretty simple. Chris, are you familiar with fecal transplants, fecal, what's it, coliform or bacteria transplants?
A little bit. I've never gone too deep into that, but
so the short version, folks, and if you're eating, I'm sorry, is if you take bacteria out of someone's colon and from a thin person and you put it in a fat person, the fat person starts to get thin. And if you do the same thing in reverse, a thin person starts to get fat. It turns out the bacteria in your gut have a direct relationship, not only to how you process food, but into the food that you crave. It's not just the friends you have around you and your coworkers who you look at and you adopt their behavior. It's the bacteria in your gut actually determine how you act. And you think, oh, I'm an adult, I'm a human, I'm making decisions. I will choose to eat the ice cream. I will choose to not eat the ice cream. Sort of. The bacteria gets a vote. Your coworker circle gets a vote. Your boss gets a vote, because we're all in this environment where we perceive ourselves to end at our skin, but we don't. We actually extend out into everyone else. I see Chris's videos on Twitter. I go, oh, I should work out more today. Because Chris has just worked out more than I was going to.
You're doing pretty well, Brian. And
I'm so far behind, Chris. I'm so far behind.
I just want to take advantage of, first of all, I've been amazed, being part of the Ovadia Heart Health team on a very small level for several years. But over this past calendar year, I've gotten to to be a part of the inner team. And I'm really amazingly impressed by what you've helped Dr. Ovadia build, Brian. I mean, like you said, there's like 20 people involved in this team, and these Zoom calls that you refer to that go on many times a week. It's just amazing what's going on. I just wanted to, I think I should put up the link to where people can go if they want to schedule a call to see and learn more about what Ovadia Heart Health is about. I also just wanted to give you a chance to talk just a elevator pitch on how you've done what you've done with Dr. Ovadia to assemble this team, because you clearly had a vision. And one more before I let you start talking about it is what Dr. Ovadia's goal that he helped come up with you helped come up with him, involves how many people you want to prevent from having a heart attack. I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So Dr. Ovadia's thing is 1 million heart attacks is what he's trying to prevent. He spent his first 30 years of his career fixing people up after they got broken. And he's sort of sick of that being the only answer. He still loves saving people, obviously, but preventative maintenance is the only path towards. Part of his thing, Dr. Ovadia, is he keeps on seeing younger and younger people. When he started as a heart surgeon, he was seeing a lot of 60 and 70-year-olds. Now he's seeing a lot of 40 and 50-year-olds. And it's hard to ignore a trend like that, where you see whatever's happening at the national scale, the global scale, younger and younger people are needing his service as a heart surgeon, which is a disaster in every direction. It's a disaster for the individual. It's a disaster for society at every level. So Dr. Ovadia's big thing is we're going to go prevent 1 million heart attacks. Now, as to how I did what I did with Dr. Ovadia, here is the Brian Keith approach to business. Always cheat, always win. Find advantages that no one else has that are very hard for other people to copy or prohibitively expensive. And once you've cheated by not starting at the same starting line as everyone else, then go keep on pursuing your lead in some way. Dr. Ovadia is very unusual because he is a heart surgeon, which is plenty of those, but there's not very many entrepreneurial-minded heart surgeons. And the cost, even if someone else knew the market opportunity we're pursuing with Ovadia Heart Health, and they said, I want to go do that, I would say, okay, great. Go spend 30 years as a heart surgeon, then come back to me. By which point, the economic environment will be completely different than it is. So we're not competing with all heart surgeons. We're competing with like 10 heart surgeons, if that. But of those 10, what we did is we had Dr. Ovadia with all of his surgery experience. And then we added in there, he invested in getting a book written with his ideas, and he hired a ghostwriter. A lot of doctors say, I'm going to go write a book. I'm a heart surgeon. I'm whatever. I can write a book. I'll be great at it. Well, no, writing a book is its own special skill. And so Dr. Ovadia hired Joshua Lysick as a ghostwriter. And between the flights to go back and forth to surgery, they would do interviews in the airport where Joshua would ask this question, that question, and get all of Dr. Ovadia's ideas out on paper. And Ovadia would edit them back and forth, back and forth. So that's that book, Stay Off My Operating Table. It's relatively short for a medical book. A lot of medical books like, oh, it's so fat, it's going to have a lot of good stuff in it. Stay Off My Operating Table, it's really short. You can read it in maybe 3 or 4 hours, but it's so short you can actually do it.
It's a great book for the layperson. I've read it twice cover to cover, and I refer to it all the time. It is distilled down into actionable steps, and I can tell you right now, they work.
Yeah, it's so we had a heart surgeon experience. Then second thing is he had a book, and he didn't write it himself. He hired an expert, and that book was really the beginning of Ovadia Heart Health. Was that, and then also started doing podcasting immediately. It was during all that time. Dr. Ovadia and I already knew each other. We partnered up at that time. So the fourth piece of why we're winning so much is that from the beginning, Dr. Ovadia said, what I want to do is I want to go prevent 1 million heart attacks. Here's my general idea. How should we go from here to there? And we started at the beginning together. There's very few heart surgeons that would go ahead and hire a business person like me, a fractional COO, from the beginning to go help build everything. And so the Redbeard motto, always cheat, always win. We started off to go copy Dr. Ovadia's surgery experience, very difficult, very expensive. And then how many heart surgeons have someone ghostwrite their book who's a professional ghostwriter? Very close to zero. How many heart surgeons? Now, if you listen to Dr. Ovadia's very first podcasts or very first times he was interviewed on someone else's podcast from back in 2021, and then you listen today, you'll notice a big difference. we've invested a lot of energy in helping Dr. Ovadia get better at sharing his message. How many heart surgeons do you know who are also on a TEDx stage, who are also on Diary of a CEO with 2.4 million views, also on the 5-Minute Body with over 2 million views. Also, we just had a third one break 1 million views. So we're saying, okay, heart surgeon who's good on stage and putting all these things together. So we have all those things together. And then we expanded out, started building the team. We hired some health coaches. We hired a nurse practitioner. We hired people. And here's another critical reason why we're winning is we did not hire people to go and clone how Dr. Ovadia approaches things. We hired people with interesting stories, with interesting expertise in their own backgrounds, who are in alignment already with how Dr. Ovadia thinks in general. And then after we hired them, we made sure they spent enough time together for the new hire to go and adopt even more how Dr. Ovadia goes about things. And he goes and reviews things. So our health coaches, we didn't hire someone out of college to go be a health coach. We hired people with decades of interesting, and again, hard to counterfeit experience, decades of experience as a diabetic nutritionist for a hospital, decades of experience as a health coach, decades of experience in all these different areas. And then we went ahead and we sort of put the Ovadia stamp by making sure they spend enough time around Ovadia that they can go, it's more like fine tuning. And this is really hard to do because there's a million health coaches out there, but not that many of them are aligned with the message of metabolic health. Mm-hmm. And of those that are, a lot of them don't have decades of experience. If someone wants to go, and let's say someone wants to go copy you, Chris, you're a new health coach. They want to go say, I want to go hire a health coach like this. I want to go copy Chris. What do they got to do? They got to find somebody who at 50 was fat and weak and then said, screw this. And then spent not even a decade, but only a few years getting lean and strong and doing things like running marathons in his 60s, which is insane. Those people exist, but they're hard to find. There's not that many of them. And that many of them that also want to be health coaches, not that many of those. And that many that already have spent years on Dr. Ovadia's team reading about metabolic health and helping evangelize this message. So we end up having, there's actually very few Chris's out there available. And we grabbed the Chris that was available. And so if someone else who's a competitor for us says, I want a Chris, good luck. We already got him. And if they say, I want a Chris now, I want a Jen, tough cookies. We got him. Tough steak. I don't know. That actually sounds horrible. Tough steak. We already got him. So we don't play fair. We don't fight fair. And that's how we've assembled this team, is by grabbing people that are unusually good and very hard to find, but are already aligned with the message. So we're not trying to train anybody. We're not trying to convince you, maybe you should go and pay attention to your insulin resistance. You're someone who's already spent years studying that.
This is a fascinating topic, and I love having these conversations because I learn something every day. I like the you mentioned alignment. Alignment is one of my favorite words. Trying to find things that could be moving in the same direction, using the same momentum, and pushing all towards the same goal. I mean, it pretty much is. It kind of encompasses my entire story. Trying to find people that I can align with, that I can learn from, and so that's why I like every single Ovadia Zoom meeting.
Well, it's spiritual alignment, I would say, alignment of purpose. That if you believe you are here on this earth to get what you can and leave nothing left, it's very hard to move someone who has that spiritual alignment of take what you can, leave nothing left. That's the pirate theme from Jack Sparrow, right? To move them into the alignment of your job here is to use your unique gifts to go and save as many people as possible and ease suffering. To move from here to there is almost impossible. If you take people that already have the attitude of, it's my job to go and ease suffering and to help people out, and that further, so that's their spiritual alignment. And then their intellectual alignment is more along the lines of, I'm going to go and metabolic health, insulin resistance, these are the important things. I changed the view here so I can actually talk with my hands. Like I got to talk with my hands.
Okay.
Welcome to Team Ovadia, folks, where the CEO talks with his hands all day long. So getting people who already have those alignments, then saying, how about you follow this heart surgeon and join his team, and you'll be able to be more efficacious than you ever could on your own. That's very interesting. It's a very good sales pitch to a lot of people. And then we find a reality where we say, okay, we're hiring a new whoever. We got some great candidates showing up. When we hired a nurse practitioner, I'm part of the interview team. And wow, we had some amazing candidates. And it was a hard choice because the people we want to work with us. Got a lot of good people. Wish we could hire all of them. We only hired one because that was the right move at the time. And for health coaches as well. It's beautiful. Let's look here. We have 538 people watching at the moment. If you folks, and you're almost on Twitter, if you drop a comment on Twitter, let's go see if we can see any questions we have. Back to that original theme, longest segue in the world. Back to that original theme of high performance for entrepreneurs and for business people. Let's go ahead and see here, Chris, if we have any people where we can go ahead and see their comments. Any questions? Let's go ahead, and we can't throw the comments directly up on the screen. We did have Chris, and one of our health coaches was watching on YouTube. We can throw those comments on the screen. We can't throw anything from Twitter directly on the screen. But let's go ahead and take a look here. I'm going to go, let's go see what kind of questions we might have. And okay, I have pulled up here. I'm looking at Dr. Ovadia's, where that's live on Dr. Ovadia's account. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop those on the questions right there. And we'll go ahead and see if we can answer any questions from the audience here. And Chris, if you see over on your account or Dr. Ovadia's account, let me know. Also, you can just go DM Chris, biggest comeback on Twitter, and go see if you have any questions for me about anything from health habits for entrepreneurs, dealing with child loss, how to be less fat, how to think about generational trauma, anything, or building a business, whatever. We cover it all here. We're the full shop.
Hey, I wanted to ask you while we have a moment here. You've learned a lot from Joshua Lisek, and Joshua Lisek was the ghostwriter for Dr. Ovadia's book, as you just mentioned previously, as you were describing the book. How did you end up getting involved with Joshua? And you know, I find him fascinating, and he has he's known for Joshua Lisek's best way to say it, and it's probably a skill that more people should take advantage of.
So I'm having a bit of trouble hearing your audio. Can you turn off your camera, Chris? And let's see if that improves our bandwidth here today.
Oh, sure. Let's see.
Then everyone will just have my smiling face.
I'm not seeing a...
where you have stop cam in the lower left-hand corner next to mute.
Let's see. It says it's going to shut off.
Still working on getting the software working just right. While Chris is going ahead and stopping his camera, but showing back up, his question was about Joshua Lisek and the ghostwriting. So what that looks like is that there are people out there like Joshua Lisek, and I'm going to go ahead and toss up his name here. And you're almost all watching on Twitter, so we're just going to go ahead and here is Joshua Lisek. Joshua focuses on making books that sell stuff, that create behavior change. And Dr. Ovadia went to Joshua and said, hey, I need a book. I have absolutely no time. I'm busy. I'm in surgery all day long. So what am I going to do about that? And Joshua and Dr. Ovadia started working together in 2021 towards the start of the year. And then by the end of the year, November or so, the book came out. And it's a book that is all about behavior change and getting people to go and change their behavior. Now, I'm going to go ahead and unmute Chris's mic if I can. Okay, Chris, I see your video, but not your mic. Flip that up. We'll see if the audio quality improves.
How are we?
Okay, your audio is good. Your video is still poor. If you turn off your video, your audio might be better.
Okay, stop cam.
Let's see if we can do that. Hey, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So everyone, you just imagine a guy who runs marathons and has big biceps and the other camera there, and that'll be accurate enough. So the pitch for Ovadia to Lisek was, I need to get people to change their ideas around what healthy looks like so that they do not wind up on my operating table, which is an impossible task because we've all been conditioned to follow doctor's orders since birth. And the medical establishment, like medical schools, all teach a certain thing. And Dr. Ovadia himself had the experience of he got fat and sick following his own advice. And the only way to get unfat and unsick was to stop following his own advice and figure out what is the right kind of advice. And he's learning all this as he's a heart surgeon. Imagine, if you can, realizing, looking at yourself in the mirror and realizing this is not healthy. And then realizing you've been giving people advice that is different from what you currently understand to be true for a long time. And it's standard medical advice, but it's actually gotten you sick. How many people have you not helped as much as you could have? That was the existential quandary Dr. Ovadia found himself in, and why he had to go to Joshua Lysick to go get help. And you had to go get help on how am I going to go and get people to change their behavior, to change their concepts. And so Dr. Ovadia and Lysick worked together. They came up with the 7 principles of metabolic health and some simple things like eat real food, talking about what eating real food is. Extra funny, Ovadia recommends mostly meat diet. Joshua Lysick, vegan. But this concept of eat real food, it doesn't matter how you eat in terms of being a vegan, omnivore, carnivore, whatever. The idea around eat real food. So they came up with that. They came up with things like find the right doctor to be on your side and the whole list of those 7 things. So it was how do we sell this idea of what metabolic health really is? And how do we sell the idea that insulin resistance is critical to everything? And the idea that you can make simple changes. We've talked to so many people, some people whose names you would know, but I can't share, who have said to us, wow, I read your book and I lost 50 pounds. There's one name I'm burning to share, but I can't. He might be public about it eventually. But there's just life-changing stuff. You don't have to go talk with Dr. Ovadia to go have your life changed. A lot of people, they read the book, they listen to the podcast on a regular basis. And it's back to what we talked about with having who's in your circle and who's your local hierarchy chief, like that sword fighting guy I talked about. If you hang out with Dr. Ovadia through listening to the podcast or even through listening to the live streams that his staff puts on, for example, you will naturally say, oh, I'm this kind of person. People like me tend to do things like this. And the people like me tend to do things like this is one of the most powerful forces in the world. I had a buddy once, and his I think it was his niece or his cousin died suddenly, and he was heartbroken. And he was coming to me saying, man, it's so horrible. I'm so broken up. And I said, okay, how do people in your family remember those they've lost? And he gave me this story and that story. I said, okay, we're the people who do these things. That's the phrase for you to try to center yourself in recognizing and memorializing your relative. Remind yourself, we're the people who do these things. And it really helped him out to center himself in this horrible moment in his life. And so we have 576 people, 77 people watching right now. We're the people who do these things. When you think about that, and you think about high performance at work, which all of us have important work. My wife right now is giving my 1-year-old son a nap. That is high performance work. If you've never given a kid a nap, actually, I think he didn't actually stay asleep. I think I saw that note. So she's trying to deal with a kid who didn't get his nap. That is high performance work. If you're not on the top of your game, it's going to go badly. It's the most important responsibility in the world, vastly more important than, say, a live stream for 500 whatever people. We're all engaged in high performance work. We're the people who do these things. What is on your list of? Here's what we do. We shared some ideas earlier in this call about what to eat. We talked about what not to eat. We talked about looking at your past trauma and noticing that's part of your environment. It might be leading to some current behaviors that otherwise you might just feel like you're a bad person about, but they're actually self-medicating for something that happened to you quite a long time ago, perhaps, or maybe in my case, 2 years ago. But we're the people who do these things. Chris, one of the reasons I love reading you on Twitter is that you talk a lot about your habits. And you say, I do this, I do that. Here's why I do this. And people having behaviors where you can say, oh, that makes sense. This person has that kind of identity. Now, but it's for everything. It's not just for food. Right now, as you can tell, I don't have much hair on top of my head. When I shave my head, I have this fancy razor that gets really, really close cut. I feel great. I put on some Farrow, which is a kind of a lard-based skin cream that a client of mine works with. And I feel, and I get groomed and I feel like, oh, I feel good. I feel powerful. And today, because of what I ate when I drank, I feel good, man. I didn't eat any crap. Toasted with honey. We were beekeepers. We have our own honey. I love toasted butter and honey. Oh my goodness. Tragically, folks, it would slow me down. Didn't have it today. Might later as a snack. Who knows? But so far I feel amazing because my environment tells me I'm a winner. And if I look right here in my office, this morning I had a big old white no paper thing, like one of these big ones. I thought I need some wall art. So what did I do? Got out a pen, wrote down, for those of you Jocko fans, all your excuses are lies. And that's now staring at me on the side. I'm going to eventually make a nicer one. Maybe my wife make it because she has a good handwriting. Put it on the wall. All your excuses are lies. Because I want to, when I'm thinking, I want to do this, I'm too tired of this, I'm whatever, I'm in a low energy state. I want to look at that and go, right. Someone who has literally been in combat is telling me all my excuses are lies. Maybe I should go ahead and listen to him. Maybe. And you think about Dr. Ovadia, you listen to his podcast, Comes out what, Chris? Once or twice a week?
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. You listen to that half hour, whatever it is, and you just hear this guy, and you think, this guy's done over 3,000 heart surgeries. Maybe I should listen to him. You can change your information environment. Your information environment, which is as important as your food environment, your sleep environment. If you have a great food environment, but your information environment is crap, that's going to go badly for you. I'll tell you guys a story. So again, it's a sad story. Apparently, all my stories today are horrible. My uncle died this year, and his father died of a heart attack at 52. My mom was a kid. And so I never knew my grandpa because he was dead before I was born. And my uncle knew that he was going to die at 52, just like his dad. He knew it. We could say his information environment had in there as a known thing, you will die at 52. Did my uncle take good care of himself? Of course not. He was going to die soon anyways. Gets to 52. Guess what? Of course, I already know the story. He didn't die. Just died this year in his 70s. Those 20 years, increasingly big loss of skills, loss of ability to travel. Couldn't even go to his own mother's funeral 6 years ago now because he couldn't make the drive. He's trapped. He was imprisoned. And he wasn't imprisoned by the food he ate, though that was a part of it. He was imprisoned by his information environment. Wait a second, 602 people watching this right now. Every one of you, sadly, including myself and Chris, is trapped by your information environment in some way. And the kicker is you don't know what way you're trapped. But we know you're trapped somehow. So when you're looking at high performance as an entrepreneur, yes, go eat more steak. Yes, eat less carbs. But also, what is the information environment you're around? And that's why, because you think, again, you don't know how you're trapped. But if you, including your environment, like me, it's Jocko's thing on the wall right now. For those of you who know Jocko, all your excuses are lies. Akira the Don made a Meaning Wave album or a song about all your excuses are lies. I can hear it playing in my head right now. Krishna, one of our coaches, she said, eat today like you want to eat for the rest of your life. I heard her say that 3 years ago. It's in my head on a regular basis. Hang around people that are where you want to be. And then you don't even have to know how your information environment is screwing up you meeting your goals. It'd be nice if you could understand that, but we're all blind to some extent. But by associating with people like Dr. Ovadia, like Krishna, like Chris, you can sort of elevate yourself to where you go, okay, I could be different than I am. And you don't even have to know how they're programming you because you're always being programmed by hanging on Dr. Ovadia on the podcast, reading his book, etc. Then you go, oh, you'll be elevated a little bit.
Can you hear me right now? Am I coming through now?
You're coming through just fine.
Okay. Well, I just want to say one thing about that environment, the food environment and all the other, quote, environments that we are sort of held captive by or allow ourselves to be held captive by. Probably the most important thing that I learned, because the people talk about the abysmal food environment, and that's the cause of the obesity epidemic and so forth. And I just want to say that I live in the same food environment, more or less, than I did 6 or 7 years ago. It's just the way I interact within it. And I've controlled my environment. I mean, the food environment hasn't changed, but we can, I think exactly what you're saying about who we associate with, who we spend time with, who we listen to. And so those conscious choices, they've been so essential in virtually all the changes that I've experienced.
You cannot help but be controlled by the information environment of the people that you hang around. So who you follow on Twitter matters a lot. Mm-hmm. If you see Chris doing his workout videos and doing his dips, you think like crap, I need to go take off my barbell and put on my dip bar thing onto my pull-up machine thing. I gotta get moving. Because you see Chris doing the whole monkey see, monkey do thing is very, very real for all of us. Now, we're almost on the hour here. We just had a comment over here from LinkedIn. Yeah, Abdul. Let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. 100% on that. I don't get sick anymore, in part because of how I eat. It's fantastic. Let's go ahead here. Let's talk a little bit for those of you who this is your first live stream ever, or if you just think, hey, I want to go learn more about what it's like to go change my environment, especially if you're running a business, or if like me, I'm running 3 businesses, and you have no time, you cannot afford the downtime of being weak, sick, fat, and ugly, and you just want to be healthy again, maybe for the first time. I've never been really, really strong. When I was sword fighting, I was pretty strong. When I was mountain climbing, I was pretty strong, but I've never been really, really strong. I'm now in my 40s, and man, can I be stronger and fitter than I am. I'm going to get there. This right here is how you can talk to our team And this is talking to a guy on our team that's there, and he'll chat with you about what's your problem, what are you trying to face here, and then depending on what he thinks you need, he'll talk to another team member, Abigail, or he'll go book you in for a lab review with Lisa, our nurse practitioner, or he'll go, if you talk to Abigail, she might say, oh yeah, you want to talk to Dr. Ovadia, have him look at everything in your life and help you give advice on everything you can do. But that's where it all begins right there. So there's really 2 action steps, 3. If any of you have not read the book, go get the book. Stay off my operating table. It costs less than a tank of gas, as does everything today. Am I right? Except for heart surgery. That's very expensive. $20,000 for a heart attack is what the American Heart Association thinks it costs for just the event itself. So just go buy the book. It's $20. It's a little bit cheaper than a heart attack. Go listen to the podcast. If you're a podcast person, start playing it in the car. Because if you hear Dr. Ovadia talk, you will just, through no fault of your own, you'll start to change your behavior. And then, we have another comment here from Abdul. Yeah, food for the mind is just as important as food for the body. 100%, Abdul. That is so, yes, that's the whole podcast right there. The whole live stream is that comment right there. And then the third thing is go get on our calendar and just talk with our team and tell you, here's the health problems I'm facing. Like in my case, my grandpa died of a heart attack at 52. That's a problem. I should not wait until I'm 52 to go deal with something. Now, Dr. Ovadia says, yeah, if you have no family history of heart disease, then you want to go get a coronary artery calcium scan at 45. If you have any history like me, you should get it at 40. So it's on my list this year. I have a lab order from Dr. Ovadia to go get a CAC because it's going to be a part of my preventing dying like my grandpa did in just 12 years' time, which I would really rather not do. My son would be 13. Horrible to lose a parent when you're 13 years old. I'm looking to avoid that. So go ahead and get on our calendar. We have a question here. X is giving us a comment. That's fun. Hi, how often does this live stream run? We are doing 2 live streams a week, Christian. We have our telemedicine live stream, which is focused on general health topics, like in this case, being an entrepreneur, high performance, etc. Then we also do an employee wellness live stream every week. Chris, when is that employee wellness live stream running?
Monday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, and most of the telemedicine ones are, let's see, they're usually on Tuesday or Wednesday, but they're not always at the same time. But I think we have our next one on the 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern time with McKenna.
Great. But McKenna's going to be fun. McKenna is one of our team members, physician's assistant who does urgent care, but through telemedicine and has an ER background. Going to be fascinating. Her perspectives on metabolic health are from the ER, which is a really different place than a heart surgeon where everything's planned in advance and all that, right? It'll be fascinating. We're at the top of the hour here. One final request. There's 633 people on the live stream right now. Anything you want to hear us talk about, Chris runs these every week. Go ahead and DM either Dr. Ovadia at iFixHearts on Twitter or Chris at Biggest Comeback. DM what you would love to hear us talk about. Chris can go find someone else on our team to go talk about with you. Or if you want to hear me back on talking about anything, and we covered quite a bit of ground today, go ahead, DM Biggest Comeback, DM iFixHearts, either one or both, whatever, and say, I'd love to hear more about this. We are at the top of the hour. Chris, what's the one most interesting thing we've discussed, the nugget we want to leave in people's minds as they go about their day?
Well, for me, alignment, finding things that align to help improve your life, and finding better people or people that are doing the things that you aspire to do, overcoming the challenges you aspire to overcome. Hang out with those people. Follow them on Twitter, follow them on X, watch their YouTube videos. That's the best way to improve where you're headed, is to associate with those people.
Beautiful. I'll phrase it as things similar, but I'll phrase it as you could be better than you are and you know it. And you owe it to yourself, your employees, your spouse, your children to be better than you are. So let's get after it today. We'll see you later, folks.
Take care.